Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm with Jen Carrington today.
Hello.
Hello. Jen was my coach over the past year or so, and she's just great. And I can't wait for you to hear her story and what she does and all the other stuff. So, Jen, do you want to introduce yourself and tell everyone a bit more about you and what you do as a creative coach?
Of course. So I'm Jen. I almost forgot my age then. I'm 25, almost 26. I live in Manchester with my husband and my mini zoo, which is our two cats and our dog. And I'm a creative coach. And what that basically means is I help wonderful humans, like people like Kat, kind of bridge the gap between where they are now and where they want to be in their creative life. And that can look from someone who wants to start writing a book, or someone who wants to launch a business, or someone who wants to take their business to the next level, to someone who wants to start a podcast. Everything that comes into being a creative human online, that's what I help people do.
Yeah. And your personal story of why you started doing that is really interesting and sort of touches on some of the topics that I want to chat about today. So if you don't mind, would you be happy to share your personal journey and your health struggles and all that stuff?
Yeah, I will try and keep.
Yeah.
I try not ramble too much. Okay, I'm gonna go timeline.
Okay.
So I started a blog 5 years ago, and it was a beauty and lifestyle blog, and it was called Jenny Purr, which I thought was such a good name because my name's Jen and I love cats. But this is so funny. There's actually like a sex toy maker out there called Jenny Purr, and when I was Jenny Purr, people would sometimes like at me thinking I was a sex toy designer.
Right.
So that was interesting.
That's a really good name for a sex toy.
For a sex toy, perfect. So and then with Jenny. So I started this beauty and lifestyle blog because I imagine maybe you had a similar experience. Was for like a year or so, I'd been watching all these beauty YouTubers, and it was like I was like, oh my God, like, because I read a lot of magazines growing up, but it was not accessible. But then I saw these women who are like my age, and I was just like, this is amazing. And then I was like, maybe I could start a blog. And that at that time in my life, it was in my last year of university, and in my second year of university, I had a mental health breakdown. So I've struggled with mental health for issues for a lot of my life, but I was in a very tough season. I literally woke up one day and I decided like my brain had just broken, and I was in a breakdown for about a year, and it was very tough. And I started this blog. I would spend days just like in my bed at uni watching Grey's Anatomy. That was my life. And I started this blog because I was like, I need something to do. I need something to do that's fun and that's for me. So I started it, and I was writing about the lipsticks I loved and the skincare I used and all this type of stuff. And I did that for about a year or two until it pivoted into the business. 2 years until it pivoted into the business. And in that time, what happened was I graduated. I just got a job in a retail store because I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I had a social work degree and did not want to be a social worker. I actually had my second mental health breakdown pretty soon after then. So we moved back home to live with my parents. I didn't work for a year. I was completely sick. It was horrible. But I had this blog and I'd been building it up, and I kind of got to grips with what it meant to like build a blog and build a community, and I had a good readership, and I started an online lifestyle magazine with a friend, and I thought, and then I stumbled across the world of online businesses, and I was like, wait a minute, what if I could help people just get to where I have now? So start a blog, build a community, figure out how to organize their content, all those different types of things. So I launched that in 2015, January 2015, and then from there it pivoted into being a creative coaching business. So when I grew in my experience and my knowledge, then my coaching services reflected that. And then after about a year, it was like, oh, I'm a creative coach and I help people with their business and with their creative work. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, I love that story, and I think that's what I love about online businesses as well, because I feel like it's a story and it's a person. Obviously, there's a story behind like a shop that someone's bought and set up themselves, but you don't necessarily see that. Whereas if you go on someone's website, you've got their about page, you've got their blog, you've got their whole story, and the vulnerability of sharing that is probably what drew me to you, and what makes that connection between, I think, when you're a coach, or if you do anything that's either giving people advice, although you don't necessarily give people advice as a coach, or you're getting into someone's personal life,
Yeah.
and you're hearing their story of what they're struggling with, or something they're really down about, or whatever. Sharing your vulnerability, I think, is really powerful.
Yeah,
And
because basically, oh, sorry.
no, it's okay. It's Skype. It's always like cuts off. Anyway, go on.
Because we're, as coaches, we're asking people to, the only way to do good coaching work together is to be completely honest as a client, is to bring and it can take some calls for them to build that relationship and to really go deeper and deeper, and that's fine. That's how the process is supposed to be. But you have to bring everything to the table to do the work you want to do together. You have to trust each other. But how can I expect someone to tell me the really deep, big things if I'm not willing to do the same? And also, my clients are going to know if I'm good to work with them or not, knowing my story. And it's really interesting because, like, sharing, it's so funny. Writing my story doesn't feel hard. Talking about it out loud is when I start to be like, oh, is that too much to say? Do you know? So it's interesting how you have, but I think there's a lot of magic happens when you just when you just share your truth and hold space for someone else to say, well, this is my truth. And because that's I haven't worked with a single client who doesn't have some struggle, whether it's health or a family struggle or a personal struggle. Like, everyone's going through something. So sharing it, I think, can really help build a relationship that's bigger than just, oh, you have good information, let's work with you.
Yeah. And with that, I would say, let's dive into your personal philosophies around work and business and living a creative life. Your health struggles have obviously shaped that and shaped your values and what you hold true to not only your work but also your clients' work as well.
Yeah, I mean, a huge part I left out of the story. Story's too big. I live with mental health illness. I mean, I'm the healthiest I've ever been. Like, my business has actually been one of the most healing parts of my journeys because it gave me focus and it helped me believe in myself again. And it's given my life structure and focus, and it's given me, on a very practical level, financial independence that helps me make more decisions for myself. But I also live with chronic health issues, which, not to go into too much depth because it'll bore everyone, but I have a neurological condition that gives me headaches, numbness, fatigue, all those kind of joyful things. The core of everything I do is kind of really believing that we can build businesses and creative lives that are impactful, fulfilling, and sustainable. So what I mean by that is, every client I work with, and myself included, we all want to do some good in the world. It's not just about making money. It's about, yes, they want to build a business that supports their life, but there's a passion or a gift or a skill or something that they're passionate about giving to other people, whether it's a coach or someone who designs beautiful websites or someone who makes beautiful products or jewelry or someone who hosts events. Like, whatever someone's doing, they have something that they want to have impact in the world, big or small. Fulfilling is, we want to feel fulfilled by our businesses. We want to feel happy. We want to feel proud of what we're doing. We want our life to feel good. We've chosen to work for ourselves because we don't want to be trapped behind a desk all day. So we're doing that. And then sustainable, I think there's two layers of that. You want it to be financially sustainable, everyone's situation is different. Some people have to earn all the money, some people earning half the money, but it needs to be financially sustainable. And it also needs to be time sustainable. So maybe you have a business that's impactful and fulfilling, but you don't actually have the ability to work the amount of hours it's asking of you right now. So it's building a business that works all of them together. And I think what goes into that is kind of knowing what your values are, knowing how you want your life to look, knowing what your boundaries are, knowing what a fulfilling, impactful, sustainable life actually looks like for you. I think that's the jumping off point, because I think it's very easy to look at someone else and think, well, their life looks like that, so maybe I should build my business to look like theirs. But your needs for a happy, fulfilling life might be totally different. So I think starting there and actually giving yourself permission to build the life you want to build, not just, I think we've kind of been told this lie as business owners that, like, it's so hard to build a business that just making it financially profitable is the only goal. But in reality, I don't just want to have enough money to live. I want to have a life as much as I have work that I love doing. So I think it's having a holistic approach to business, if that makes sense. I mean, you know this because we've talked about this so much.
Yeah, but it's been such a huge journey for me, and I still struggle with it to this day, feeling like I should be doing this because someone else says I should, or I feel like I have to do this in order to be successful. And this doesn't just apply to business as well. I feel like it applies to anyone's career and work or creativity and creative projects that they do. It's finding what's right for you and being okay with that, even if it looks completely different to what other people are telling you, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's defining, it's such a cliche, but it's defining success on your own terms. And also, I feel like a lot of us are asking ourselves, like, well, how should my life look? What is expected from me from society or from my friends or from my family? How can I make sure that I'm impressing everybody else and just doing what I feel like I should do? Whereas I feel like the question we should be asking ourselves is, what kind of life do I want? How do I want to feel? What kind of work do I want to be doing? And usually what happens is the answer is not the same as what you think is expected. So someone might feel like what's expected of them is to have a business, that they're working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, so they can buy a house and they can settle down. But maybe when they listen to themselves, they're like, oh, wait a minute, I want to work 3 days a week and I want to volunteer 1 day a week and go have an adventure the other day of the week. And I want to take 4 weeks off a year to go traveling. Like, this is just one example. Like, there's lots of different things. There's not one way to build a life, but the life you want to build is very unique to you and what makes you happy. But you have to ask yourself what that actually looks like. And it's not easy. Like, you can't just build the life you want overnight. But like for you, for example, you could have taken a million other paths that could have been easier than the one you've chosen now, because building a business and pursuing a creative life is hard. But you got clear on what was important to you and what your vision for your life was. And then you were like, I'm going after that, even if it's hard, even if it's scary, even if it's not easy, because once you know what you want, how do you then not choose that? Because nothing else would compare to that.
I think one thing that people listening to this will struggle with, and I've struggled with, is how do you get there? How do you get to that point where you are in touch with yourself and you are? Because I talk a lot about connecting to your intuition, and because I truly believe like we know what we want and we know what's right for us, even if sometimes we're almost in denial and we feel like it's easier to do this or it's more acceptable, like you say, in society to just do this and ignore this like voice inside of us that's like, no, I need like more. How do you encourage your clients, and what sort of practical tips would you give to get in touch with that voice and that meaning and really try to get to the bottom of your why and what you want that life to look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is actually taking the time to ask yourself these questions. So actually sitting with yourself and saying, because where people I see tend to get stuck is if they don't know straight away, they get frustrated. So it's like, what do I want my life to look like? I don't know. And then that feels that question's too big for some people. So I think we'll break it down. How would you like your work week to look and feel? Like, how would you like your year to look and feel? What are the like, break it down into more, like, how would you like a typical month to look and feel? How would you love to spend your downtime? Or taking it from a different point of view is like, well, what are the priorities for you in your life? What brings you joy? What's important to you? Kind of asking yourself lots of questions and then start to piece it together is what I would encourage people to do. And I think you've got to get quiet with yourself. And I think you've also got to ask yourself, what am I currently exploring or choosing in my life that isn't what I've actually chosen for myself? So maybe someone's told you, maybe you've just been fed a certain message over the years around what your life should look like, and that's what you're pursuing. But you're like, but I don't want that. So you've got to get clear as well on what you don't want. So I personally think it's asking yourself lots of questions and then playing around with different ideas, like kind of like getting your journal out and just being like, well, what would an amazing week look like for me? How would I love my life to look and feel? And get really specific around, if you're a business owner specifically, like those 3 pillars of, well, what would impact look like for me? What would fulfillment look like for me? And what would sustainability look like for me? And if you have a more traditional job, you can still ask yourself those questions, like what impact do you want to have in the world? How fulfilled do you want to be? And what does sustainability look like for you? It's figuring out what that looks like for you and then getting practical in, well, how does that look in my actual schedule? And how does that break down into my year? And how does that break down into how I mentally navigate my life? Like, for most of us, it's like, I want to navigate my life from a positive place. I want to see abundance, not scarcity. I want to believe in the good in the world. I want to feel positive. I want to feel capable. I want to feel proud. I don't want to feel distressed or let down or disappointed or like unable to do the things I want to do. So getting clear on what you want is the short answer.
Yeah. But there's a lot that goes into that. Yeah, that's really helpful. And something I need to do more, journaling. Just like writing stuff down.
I think it's hard to make the time for it, like if you're not used to it.
So one thing I wanted to touch on, because as you sort of mentioned when you gave me as the example, I have obviously chosen to be self-employed and to build a business and do all these other creative projects. That takes a lot of work, but it also takes a lot of time and it's scary and it's not easy. But obviously that aligns with my values and how I want my life to look. But to make that decision, and it doesn't have to be to start a business, it could be to change your career path, it could be to take a demotion, would that be the word? Like to step down in your role so you have more time at home with your kids, whatever it is that aligns with your vision. It takes a lot of bravery and ovaries, as I like to say, rather than balls, because we're all empowered women on this podcast. That brave step takes a lot, and you obviously took that step. I've took that step. Many people have, but there will be people listening to this who are just stuck, and they know they want to take that leap, and they know that there's more out there for themselves. What sort of encouragement would you give to those people?
I think there's a layer of both encouragement and positivity, and then the next layer is then getting practical about it. So the encouragement would be, if you know what you need to live a joyful, whole, fulfilling life, you can't deny that. And many of us are very privileged from just because we were born here and we have the ability to go on the internet, is that we have the option to make choices in our life. We're not trapped. And there's a scale there. All of us have some of us have different levels of privilege than other people have. So I think that's way too big to go into. I think if you know that you are not happy in your life and you can see what the step is. So say, for example, it's the person who knows they want to take the leap into working for themselves full time, or it's someone who wants to take a step back at work to focus on their family or their health, but they're scared about the repercussions of that or the judgments of that. It's kind of taking like everybody else's noise off the table. Brené Brown has this great advice of like, write on a very small post-it note the people whose opinions matter to you and put it in front of you. And when you're making decisions in your life, because what we tend to do is we tend to bring like that friend who's not really a friend, but who we're really scared of how they judge us to the table. I'm like, well, what will they think if I'm it? Or like that family member who we only see once a year, but they ask the most invasive questions, and we're bringing those people to the table with us. And so it's asking yourself, and on that piece of paper, by the way, your name should be first, because your opinion should be the one that matters to you most. And it's when you're making this decision, it's like, well, who am I making this decision for? And am I honouring the people on the list who are important to me, including myself? And so I think you have to be clear on what you want from your life. You have to take all the noise that doesn't matter to you off the table, and you have to trust that you will figure your life out. You can take a leap and it not be the right leap, and you can figure it out. And I think the story we tell ourselves a lot is it's too late at a certain point. And it's kind of all that crap around like, oh, it's too late, or it's too risky, or it's too scary. And my another advice would be seek out stories of people who've walked a similar path to you, because I think it can help you feel less alone. And I think it can also help you see it from a different angle. Because right now, if you want to take a leap but you're scared, you're just stuck in the fear. You can't see outside of that fear. So get your head out of the fear, like listen to stories of people who have done it, because it just helps model to you what's possible for you. And then my actual biggest advice would be get really practical. So for example, say you want to leave your job and be your own boss, get really practical about what that actually looks like for you financially, time-wise, like what support you're going to need to have in place, what your business is actually going to look like. Don't just sit in the dreaming phase. Get really clear, because say you realize, oh wait, I need to just save up this amount of money in this window of time and I'm going to feel comfortable to take this leap, or I need to build my business over this period of time. Once you get clear, then you just have to say to yourself, well, am I willing to do the work to make this happen? Because anything is possible. And so it's just, that's the because just because you want something so much doesn't mean it's going to happen. You have to be brave enough to do that. So get clear on how you can do it, and then look at it and say, am I willing to do this? And ask for support. Because no one does this alone. No one makes big changes all by themselves. Ask for support. And then just go for it. Like make a plan and go step by step. And as something I do with my clients when they're really scared to do something, say they've got a dream to start being published in magazines and they're really scared, I say 15 minutes of brave. So for 15 minutes, they just have to write out one scary pitch email and send it. And you can do that in 15 minutes. And you do one scary thing and then you go away and you shake it off. And you just keep doing the scary things that move you towards your goals, because there's no like secret to it. It's just showing up and being afraid and doing it anyway, which is such a cliche, but it's the biggest truth I know.
Yeah. I remember a question that always sticks with me that you asked me once. And I often will ask it to myself if I'm in this place. Because even once you've started the big thing, like there'll be lots of little things that you need to be brave about in between and forever. Life is just one big, like, leaving your comfort zone, isn't it?
Yeah.
You asked me what would be, you said, like, imagine the bravest, boldest version of Kat right now. What would she do in this moment? And I was just like, that was just a light bulb moment for me, because, yeah, if you, all that fear and doubt and other people's opinions aside, what would you do that was the bravest thing you could do in this very moment? So I love the 15 minutes of brave. I feel like that's such a great practical way to look at that. Yeah. And it's so true. Like, because I think if you think about what you would do, it's like that question some people say, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?
Yeah, that's a helpful one.
I think taking that fear out of the scenario, that's where your intuition is, because your intuition is telling you what is actually right for you to do, even if it scares you shitless.
Yeah, because I fear it's actually trying to keep, I say, like, we have this monster in our head that is trying to keep us safe by just making us live a small life. And when, I don't mean small in the sense of like a quiet life, because I have a quiet life. I mean small in the sense that you do not reach your potential as a human being, which is the most painful thing. If you know you're capable of something, but your fear is holding you back. So you have this monster in your head and it's trying to keep you safe. It doesn't want you to be rejected. It doesn't want you to fail. It doesn't want you to be criticized. It doesn't want you to feel vulnerable. And I think it's just knowing that everyone is afraid. I'm afraid every single day. I'm afraid to come on this podcast and make a fool of myself. I'm afraid all the time. But my desire to pursue the life that I want and my belief that that is how I live a whole life is bigger than that fear. And it's kind of like the Elizabeth Gilbert way of saying, I just bring the fear along with me and say, thank you, you're trying to keep me safe, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I think that is not looking for this magical time when you're not afraid, because you're always going to be afraid. Because once you reach one goal, you've then got another goal that's going to scare the hell out of you even more, and you've got more to lose. So you're always going to be afraid. It's do it anyway. And no, the thing I always tell myself is I will survive. The only thing I will not survive is death. Like, that's it. Like, if I die, I'm done. But anything up until that moment, I can survive it. I can survive failure. I can survive rejection. I can survive criticism. It'll hurt like hell if and when it happens. But I can survive it because I chose this. I choose the good with the bad of pursuing this type of life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's owning it, isn't it? And we're so on the same wavelength, because I was literally about to say, anyone who's creative listening to this who struggles with fear, you need to read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic. And you just quoted her. So. Yeah, Jen actually recommended that book to me, and it is so good. If you struggle with everything we've talked about, like fear, other people's opinions, all that stuff. So
yeah, it's fantastic.
One thing I'm also remembering from our time working together is on the subject of like owning your decision and just going for it anyway. I would come on a call and either like vent or rant or whatever about something I was struggling with, and you would be like, yeah, but is this the path like you want to go down? Do you want to start a business, don't you? You want to grow this business, or you want to start coaching people or whatever? And I was like, yeah. And you were like, well, carry on. Like, this is what you're doing. And it really helped me. You were obviously a support network and emotional support, but you also always brought me back to what I wanted. So I almost had this light bulb moment again, like every call, like, oh yeah, like it's going to be scary, but I want it, so I'm just going to have to put up with the fear almost, or put up with all this other stuff that is just part and parcel of starting and running a business.
Yeah, I feel like that's my number one job as a coach, is to hold my clients accountable to two things: to the very best, bravest version of themselves, and to their real dreams, to what the life they really want. Because I think sometimes, especially, I always think that we underestimate how important it is what's been modeled to us. So say a client who hasn't seen what they want happen for someone else yet, the important thing is, it's my job to let someone know that it's possible for them and that they're capable of it. And also, because here's what happens: we have a call, and then you've got 2 weeks of doing it in your day-to-day life, and it gets scary and it gets hard, and you're just so aware of oh wait, I'm taking action and nothing's happening yet, or this is scary, or this feels lonely. And then, you know, the monster in your head that wants to keep you safe is going to be like, oh, Kat, just give up. Or, oh, Kat, like, it's not worth it. Or, oh, you'll never make it, so just go and do something else. And then coming back to the time working together. And the thing is, you don't need a coach. A coach can be great for this, but if anyone listening wants to do this for themselves, just ask yourself the right questions. So, for example, say you're feeling frustrated in the pursuit of a goal, and you're asking yourself, why is this so hard? Why is this not happening for me? Flip it around. Why do I want this? Why am I willing to do this hard thing? What is most important to me here? How do I need to keep showing up? I think the thing I always tell myself and to my clients is ask ourselves better questions. Don't ask questions that are just rooted in like frustration and fear and discouragement. Ask questions that keep us moving forward, because no one said this was going to be easy. But are you, like, if you think back to where you were when you were saying those type of things on calls, and now, I'm assuming that you are so glad that you pushed through anyway, and that you were brave and that you did the scary thing, because the only way you can get to where you are now was doing all of that.
I remember you saying to me as well, and if you do this and it works for you and you enjoy it, more power to you, but it doesn't for me. And I remember Jen saying, like, if you wanted, Kat, tomorrow you could go and get a 9 to 5 and work Monday to Friday in an office. And I was just like, but no, I don't want to do that. I'd hate that. And she was like, okay, well, you know that's your other option, or that's another option that would get you out of this rut, or stop you feeling fear or whatever. But you don't want that, because you want this and you want the time freedom or whatever else. And it's looking at the alternative, like you say, and thinking, okay, like, am I going to give up and just go and do that? Or is the alternative almost more, I don't want to just bash people in 9 to 5s, is the alternative almost more painful than doing the scary shit and working hard and working late or sending that email and getting rejected? Yes, for me it was like the pain of going against what I knew in my heart that I wanted to do. So I think it's coming to that conclusion with yourself as well. And like you say, if you don't have a coach, I coach myself now. I almost have a conversation in my head, or even sometimes out loud, which is really weird. And I will have this pep talk with myself, and I will it's almost like I'm standing back from me and looking at the situation objectively and saying, okay, Kat, what would it look like if blah, 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 blah. And yeah, that's just something I wanted to share, because it really helped me.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of conversations with myself in my head all the time. And I think it's such a cliche, but you have to fight for the life you want. Like, no one who has built something that works for them did it. It's really hard. It's really hard to build any type of life. Life is hard. It's wonderful and so hard at the same time. My kind of, just like, I don't want to live my life on autopilot, so I want to ask myself these questions, and I want to stay in constant conversation with myself. And even if it's hard, and I want to be brave enough to build my life for me, so that I'm the best version of myself for my clients, my family, myself, my friends. Not that I'm just living a life smaller than what is possible for me, even though it's hard. And even some days I just want to stay in bed, and some days I do. Like, I don't want to live a smaller version of my life, but I have to keep asking myself those questions, and I have to be willing. I think sometimes it's prolonging the gratification. So when you're pursuing a big goal, it can take years, and it's just keeping your eye on the bigger picture and knowing in the here and now that you're sowing seeds that you will reap the rewards of in the long run. But it's not going to come. No one starts a business and then the next day they're Marie Folio.
Yeah.
It's like, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And it's learning to find joy in the journey, and even the shitty bits or even the hard days, it's finding joy in the experience and the lessons and all the other stuff that you get from that.
Yeah, I always say to my clients who are there's a very specific stage where someone has built their business, they've built the brand, and they're starting now to connect with people and put their message out there, and it's always a stage of crickets because building community is hard. And that's one of the most demotivating stages, I think, of being a business owner, when no one cares about your work yet because they haven't had the opportunity to. And I always say to my clients in that situation, celebrate your action, not the results. So for anyone in a situation where they're getting started and it's just them showing up and nothing's coming back to them, the only thing you can do is celebrate the fact that you are showing up for your life in this way. The results come later. But if you don't celebrate that, you will give up because it's too heartbreaking to not have what you want happen yet. But to actually go in with no expectations and just to celebrate your action, that keeps you moving forward, I found.
Yeah. Celebrating putting yourself first, as I say, on the Put Yourself First podcast. And showing up for your goals and knowing that even if you're failing, even if you no one's giving you positive feedback, or if they're giving you negative feedback, knowing that you're showing up for yourself is hopefully is gratifying enough in those stages. I've totally been there. When you're like, no one's replied to my newsletter or whatever. No one's commented. Yeah, exactly. I want to shift now to the more holistic, like, lifestyle stuff that you chat about, because obviously you've built a creative business that is sustainable for the lifestyle that you want to lead and honours your personal health and your self-care needs and all that stuff. And I'm really passionate about encouraging women particularly to be selfish in that regard and to acknowledge their needs and their, whether that be certain amounts of time they need to spend by themselves or certain amounts of time that they have to say no to people because they know they want to be relaxing or going to the gym or whatever it is that they personally need. How do you, so I obviously know this, but for anyone else who doesn't, how do you approach self-care as a busy working woman, and what advice would you give for other women who can get stuck in that mindset of feeling like they can't say no to people in order to say yes to themselves and to make more time for themselves?
Yeah, I feel like I'm probably quite an extreme case, and it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. I mean, I wouldn't wish my health struggles on anyone, but my health struggles have actually been one of the most clarifying experiences of my life, because they have forced me to just do some basic self-care that I think when you're healthy, you can push the boundaries of that more. So because I'm living with chronic health issues and because I have mental health that just needs to be prioritized, it needs to be taken care of so that I stay in a healthy place, I don't have an option whether to not take care of myself in those ways, whether to not leave white space in my schedule. And for example, on Tuesday, I was supposed to have dinner with my best friend, and I had a lot of work to do this week, and we'd just been away, and my body was just sore. And I knew if I go out for dinner with her tonight, I'm not going to be able to meet my actual work commitments that I've got to get done this week. And I'm going to feel like crap tomorrow, and I don't have the space for that. And I sent her a text and I explained the situation. I was like, can we do next week? And she was like, yeah, fine. And I think it's just knowing my boundaries, and there's kind of just non-negotiables for me. It's like, I need to sleep at least 8 hours a night. I can't do 10 hours in front of a laptop screen. I can't have 5 busy days in a row. I know my body and mind's boundaries, and I have built my whole life and business to support them. And I never, ever, 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 hopefully, I'm trying to think of an example, will compromise my health for my business. Because if I do that, I'm out for days, if not weeks. So my health has forced me. But it's really interesting because I don't think you should only be in this place just if you have a health struggles. Like, I think we are worthy of putting ourselves first, as the podcast says. and I think it's just, I know my limits. I also know what brings me joy. I'm not happy if I do my very best not to be busy as a human. I'm very privileged in that I have a business that I have complete control over, and I have a husband who does 99% of the housework, so that's not an issue for me. So I choose not to be busy, and I'm privileged enough to have that choice, but I could make my life busier if I wanted to. I say no to a lot of things. Like this podcast, I think I said no the first time, and then I was like, oh yeah, I can do it now because I've got more space to do it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just, I know that I come at this from a very specific perspective because I don't have a choice. There was a time when I didn't give my body what it needed, but I saw the consequences of that. So my advice for anyone listening would be, again, listen, what do you need to thrive as a human being? That is the question I'm always asking myself as my clients. What do you need to thrive? in your relationship with yourself, what you need to thrive in your relationships, what you need to thrive in your career, in your creativity. And it looks different for everyone. Like for me, some days what I need is sleep and just quiet. Some days what I need is like go for a walk or like be out in the world. And sometimes what I need is like see my friends. And so I think it's also being okay with the fact that you need different things at different times. And at different times of the month, especially as a woman, you need different things. So I think ask yourself, what do I need to thrive? And how can I give it to myself? If that just means in the morning for the first half an hour, don't go on your phone, have some quiet time with yourself, do something that brings you joy. If it means in the evenings, you know, going to bed an hour earlier so you can read for an hour before bed, whatever brings you joy as a human, it's easier to do the things that bring us surface level joy, like scrolling through Instagram and maybe eating something that, I mean, I had pizza yesterday for lunch, it was great, but like eating, like it's easier to do the things that bring us surface level joy, but that leave us empty straight away afterwards. But it's choosing to do the things I think that really take care of you as a human being, and seeing that as much of a priority as replying to an email or going seeing your friend for lunch. I think it is changing your mindset to believe that you are worthy of that and that you don't have to hustle for that worth. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to earn the right to rest. I think that is a mindset I see like, oh, I can only rest if I've earned it. And it's like, no, you are inherently worthy of feeling good in your life. We've been raised because marketing companies want us to buy shit to feel like we're not worthy, but we're worthy of everything that we need. And I think that is the journey that you go on as a human, as a woman, especially, to get to that place where you're like, wait, I'm worthy of giving myself what I need and my life actually thrives. I achieve more now by taking better care of myself than I did when I didn't. And it sounds counterintuitive to work less and take care of yourself more, but I can get more done in a short space of time because my brain and my body can do it, rather than when I was burnt out and I wasn't functioning at I think the question is, so how can I support myself to thrive, and how can I support myself to function at my highest level in all, and okay, you're not going to be top of your game in every area of your life at all times. If I'm doing great, if I'm busy, if I'm focusing on a work project, maybe I haven't seen my friends as much. You know what I mean? Or like if I'm focusing on my friendships, maybe I'm not doing as much in work. So it's just being okay with that life's not always perfectly balanced either.
Yeah, I love that. We're so on the same wavelength. Let's move on then to the quick round questions at the end. And whilst we're on the subject of self-care, the first question is, what is your go-to non-negotiable self-care ritual that you always fall back on if you're stressed or if you feel a bit under the weather and you might have had a long stressful day? What do you straight away be like, right, I'm going to go and do this?
This is so embarrassing.
I can't wait.
I can't believe I'm telling you this, but if I've had a stressful day, I like to get out of my head and feel joy. And my husband, he sits me down and he goes, "It's pitch perfect time." And I watch Pitch Perfect.
That's amazing.
I watch it at least once or twice a week. Like,
really?
I just sit, because it's so stupid, but it just brings me to, like, if I'm stressed, I'm just like, I'm going to watch Pitch Perfect.
Oh, that's so nice.
Or I will have a sleep, or like games night with my friends is self-care to me. Like just laughing and feeling like me and not having any responsibility, that brings me a lot of joy too. And if I can make them watch Pitch Perfect, I'm even happier.
Yeah, that's amazing. For me, like my go-to happy like watching is The Secret Life of the Zoo on Channel 4.
Oh, I've never watched it.
Oh my god, you're an animal lover, right?
Yeah. We don't watch like a lot of, like, we just watch Netflix. Like I never scroll through the channels.
I watch it on just 4OD. Like sometimes I will sit and like binge watch 3 in a row. Animals just make me so happy and they're just so pure. And I feel like if you've had a shitty day and you're like, every human is awful, if you've read too much news or whatever, just going and watching that and watching some like monkeys cuddle or something, I'm just like, balance is restored. So I've not watched Pitch Perfect, so I'm gonna have to go and watch it now. I've watched it like
50 times. It's amazing. I don't know why. I'm very embarrassed, but also do not care because it brings me so much joy.
That's great. My second question is, what is challenging you to leave your comfort zone and grow recently?
Oh God. I think I'm starting to, so I write a lot for my online work, but I'm starting to try and come back to like creative writing, like fiction writing. And I've been avoiding it for like a year. Like I have this desire, like I just want to write like fiction short stories, but I'm scared because I'm terrible at it at this point. And I used to love it doing it as a kid, and I just gave it up. So I'm trying to write like little short stories and little like scenes, and that's scary because I'm terrible and I'm a beginner, and I feel so self-conscious, do even though no one sees it. So that is challenging me at the moment to pursue a different side of my creativity that I have ignored for like years and years and years, and to be a beginner at something, because in my business I'm no longer a beginner, so it's scary to be a beginner at something that matters a lot to me too.
Yeah, that's so nice to share. And I often, yeah, I admire anyone who writes fiction or books or anything, because you do often hear, like, with writing something that takes a lot out of you, because it's so different to writing a blog post or writing a newsletter. You have to accept, like, that you're shit.
Yeah,
You have
crappy
to,
first
they
draft.
always say the first draft should be shit, and to create a first draft and say it's done and it's the first draft, but I know it's shit, like, that, as someone who I know, like, as many business owners are, you'll probably have perfectionist tendencies, to be okay with that and to just be like, I'm not good at something, but that's okay.
And it's fun. Like I'm just having so much fun, like making
Yeah.
things up with my mind, and I have no pressure on it. I don't care about. It's just I'm doing it for me, and that's nice. When I do so, my business is all about other people, so I'm doing something just for me, which is nice.
Yeah, that's so important as well. Question number 3 is, what are your 2018 goals? So I know we're heading into quarter 2 this weekend actually, but what were the goals you set yourself at the start of the year, and what are you hoping to achieve and do this year?
So I think business wise, it's do amazing work for my clients is always my goal there. And this year I really want to create a lot of content. So like I'm making mini books and I've got my podcast. Like I really want to create content that, because I can only work with a limited amount of people, and it's like it's an investment to work with me. So I want to create content that someone can just download for free and can just support and encourage them in their journey. So those would feel like the main priorities in my business. And then in my life, it's just to be as healthy and as happy as possible, to take care of my health, to have fun, to travel, to live my life. Those are not very exciting goals, but to me, they're very exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing, Jen. And with that being said, where can people go to find you online and find all of your amazing work?
JenCarrington.com is just where everything is, so you can get everything there.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you for having me on. It's so fun.
You've shared so much encouragement and wisdom and just amazingness. So I hope you guys got something positive out of this. I know I got loads out of it. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I will see you soon with another interview. Bye.
Bye.